is there a growing rift between President Trump and his one-time first friend, Elon Musk? The SpaceX and Tesla CEO expressed his disappointment with the president's sweeping tax and spending bill that passed the House and is currently facing some headwinds in the Senate. This is what Musk told CBS News.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing. I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
All right, with us now, Amisha Cross, the Democratic strategist, and Mark Short, the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. And Mark, this is the president's entire legislative agenda right now, this tax and spending bill. And Musk has been critical of the president's tariff policy, which is basically his entire economic agenda. That's a big part of what President Trump is pushing, that Elon Musk is now very publicly saying, I'm not for.
Sure, John. I do think, look, the sausage making can look like the big, beautiful bill isn't so beautiful. I think we have to keep in mind that in the House, the margin for Republicans is so small that I think Mike Johnson doesn't get due credit for people who said he wouldn't be able to get the votes to be speaker. He wouldn't be able to avoid a shutdown. Now he got this tax bill through. And when you do that, sometimes you have to give favors to different constituencies to get it. I imagine the Senate will probably whittle it down some. But, you know, there's parts of this, I'm very excited to see the tax bill moving forward. I think the president's trade agenda is indefensible.
I'll say it, as a purely political endeavor, what Mike Johnson did was impressive. Yeah. Again, objectively, getting that through was an impressive political feat. But to have Musk criticizing it on its substance, and this is not some minor policy that the president is pushing. This is his entire legislative policy.
Sure, and I could pick apart pieces of it that I don't like either, John. I think a lot of Republicans could. I think that some of the expansions of the SALT deductions is egregious. But
careful, you're in New York.
I know,
saying that.
I know. But at the same time, I think the consequence of a $5 trillion tax increase on the American people is too much for Congress not to get this done.
Amisha, I want to play some sound just to stay on Elon Musk for a second, because Musk, it was a couple weeks ago where he said he was going to get out of the political giving business, and he had a soundbite that's been played, but the end of it I want you to pay attention to. Listen.
In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough. Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I do not currently see a reason.
It was that last line. I do not currently see a reason. Now, I don't have any particular insider sources inside Musk world, but I do have my eyes and ears. And that sounded like he was saying he doesn't like what he is seeing right now in politics, particularly from the White House, which he's been so supportive of.
Well, I think there are two things at play here. As we can all recall, when Elon Musk went to Wisconsin a couple months ago, that blew up in his face really badly. The Elon Musk who's able to showcase his money, that is his calling card when it comes to primary and creating challengers for Republicans who don't side with him in the Trump administration. He is making sure that people know that he's still there, that he still has a certain level of influence, but he's also trying to reel in some of the blow that he got, not only from investors at Tesla and some of those who are on the board, but also watching his own approval ratings tank. And I think that for him, that was a big hit. He doesn't agree with the big, beautiful bill. There are several parts of it that he finds problematic. But I also think that the big, beautiful bill, to Mark's point, is going to be significantly different by the time that it gets through the Senate. For Elon Musk, I think that some of this is personal. He has seen a strained relationship between him and Trump based on some basic disagreements on policy issues, but he's also someone who cares about his bottom line. And he doesn't agree with the moves that Trump specifically has taken when it comes to these tariffs.
We begin this morning with Elon Musk's disappointment as the tech billionaire is stepping away from politics. He's not shying away from commenting on his work with Doge and President Trump's sweeping tax and spending cuts package. Despite spending almost $300 million to help get Trump and GOP congressional candidates elected last year, Musk now makes it clear he's no fan of President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Joining us now here in the Situation Room, CNN anchor and chief domestic correspondent Phil Mattingly. Phil, his comments could put him at very serious odds with the president.
Yeah, it quite literally does put him at odds with the president. Obviously, the president and the White House pushing very hard to get this cornerstone of their legislative agenda, not just through the House, which they narrowly did last week, but also through the Senate. And it underscores that it's a very, very delicate moment for what is the central piece of legislation, not just for the president's border and defense policies, but also, of course, for his tax cuts reauthorization and the cornerstone of his economic plans. I think what this underscores is Musk, now out of the White House, at least on a regular basis, is reverting back a little bit to where he was before he entered the White House. Remember, Wolf, in the spending bill at the end of last year, his opposition almost derailed that continuing resolution. He got crosswise with the administration on immigration issues as well. He mostly kept his personal opinions to himself on bigger policy issues for the last 3 or 4 months. Now that he's out, he's kind of stepping away a little bit, seems that he's weighing back in. That's problematic for 2 reasons. One, he still has a significant amount of influence. Obviously spent nearly $300 million to help elect President Trump in 2024, has spent a lot of money on other Republican candidates as well. But more importantly, it's the issues that he was pointing out, which is the issue of the deficit, which, Wolf, as you know better than anybody, in the Senate is particularly problematic, where senators like Ron Johnson.
And joining us now is Democratic Congressman Greg Casar of Texas. He's a member of the Oversight and Education Committees and chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Congressman, you heard Elon Musk there saying Trump's big, beautiful bill just wiped out all of his work with Doge cuts. What's your reaction?
Look, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are in total agreement that they want to have this bill give billionaires a tax break. They're in total agreement that they want this bill to have a $25 billion contract for Trump's, quote, Golden Dome, where Elon Musk is the front runner to get those $25 billion. It seems the area of disagreement is whether they want to kick 10 or 15 or 20 million Americans off their health care. What people at home need to know is that we don't need to give billionaires a penny. We don't need to kick anyone off their health care, and we don't need to give Elon Musk another sweetheart contract. So we should be fighting to block this bill, period, and not be distracted by Elon Musk and Donald Trump having little disagreements about how many Americans they want to let die just so that they can get themselves a sweetheart contract or a tax cut.
Well, I mean, I just think also when you think about what chaos was ignited through all these cuts by Doge, cuts that, as Christine just pointed out, weren't nearly as deep, at least when it comes to savings, as he claimed he would create, but yet had this massive ripple effect through the federal workforce and so many aspects of American life and economies on the local level. Congress is out, right now. Lawmakers are back home in their districts. Let's talk more about this big, beautiful bill, because GOP Congressman Mike Flood of Nebraska, he had a town hall yesterday, and he made this admission about that piece of legislation. Take a listen.
This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill. Medicaid cuts. We cannot and will not cut Social Security, and we, for the most part, protected Medicaid.
So it's already passed the House. He's saying, this provision was hidden in the bill. How concerned are you that Senate Republicans may not take the time to read everything that's in the bill?
These guys, they either act ignorant or they lie. This congressman, my esteemed colleague, he knows that this is the biggest Medicaid cut in American history. What was discovered right before they passed the bill is that this is also the biggest Medicare cut in American history. So we can't let these Republican members of Congress go and lie to their own constituents. That's why I, a progressive Democrat from Central Texas, have flown to Arizona, have flown to Colorado to go speak in Republican-held districts, answer people's questions, and tell the truth. Because Republican members of Congress either entirely skip out on town halls or, like you just saw on video there, just make stuff up.
But he is facing his constituents. Let's pivot to the Bitcoin conference. President Trump has the power to influence this market. The Trump family has actively promoted their cryptocurrencies in this second term, leading many to openly question the ethical and the legal ramifications of this move. Vice President Vance at one point owned up to $500,000 in Bitcoin. Should they be there at this conference? Are there adequate guardrails?
What people watching at home need to know is that while working class Americans are being threatened with losing their health care, Trump and the members of his family are cashing in big time on these crypto scams. Trump has made millions, if not billions of dollars on these crypto scams. Now, 40% of his wealth is in cryptocurrency, all basically built up since he won back the White House. And he's basically put a for sale sign in front of the White House. So if you are a foreign government that wants to influence Trump and his family, just slip some money in Trump's pocket. If you are a tax cheat that wants a pardon from Trump, just slip some crypto money in Trump's pocket. But if you're a veteran that needs access to health care, or you're a kid that can't afford school lunch, then you get nothing. This is another example of billionaires get everything under Trump and working class people get screwed. This could be the biggest corruption scandal in American history, and they're out there in Las Vegas bragging about it. It is so blatant.
Meantime, let's talk about those pardons from the Chrisleys, reality stars who were found guilty of fraud and tax evasion, to the Trump-supporting former sheriff who was convicted of a cash for badges scheme, to the former nursing home exec who had pleaded guilty to tax crimes, then pardoned after his mother attended a Trump fundraiser that cost $1 million to attend, according to the New York Times. Congressman, what do you make of these pardons, and what message do they send?
This is a moment where the Democratic Party needs to point out to working class voters where we've been losing their trust, to point out just.
This is what we said would happen. It went all the way back to the H-1B stuff, right? Trump was never going to be able to keep his MAGA base happy, because the MAGA base was a mixture of like capitalist elites and more your traditional MAGAs, some of which are also capitalist elites, but some of them just regular people that believe in MAGA. And there was always going to be a tension. And even within individual people, they weren't sure where they fit. And so this is what happened then. It was like, well, Trump, the capitalist in Trump, the I want to maximize the power of billionaire Trump, of course, wants to have H-1B visas. But then the Trump that wants to please his MAGA base doesn't. And we see it with the programs. Trump wants to slash programs and cut them because that's what the billionaire elites want. And that's what the deficit hawks want. But when it comes to a lot of the programs that benefit his working class voters, and Trump did get some working class voters, we know this, right? It doesn't work. And so it's no surprise that this is splintering MAGA, and not just at the bottom, and not just at the middle, and not just people kind of on the outer edge like Bannon, who clearly still has Trump's ear a little bit, but is in the media. We're talking about like basically his co-vice president. At least he was Elon Musk. This is why MAGA is collapsing. Because they have no coherent ideology. This is part of the problems the Democrats have, too. They have no necessarily coherent ideology other than an opposition to Trump. And that's valid, but it's not really what's going to drive you forward. The Republicans have the same issue. Besides a loyalty to Trump, the God Emperor, they have no ideology, no coherent ideology either. And it's falling apart.